So with database first, we actually start with the database and we generate code. So it's kind of the opposite of code first. So you are going to want to download the database project. And when you open it, what you're going to see are a bunch of SQL tables. And if you double click, it will actually show you kind of a design view. And then you'll actually see the SQL code. And you can see that these tables have primary keys and foreign keys all set up. And that is really important when you are doing database first, because if you have a database that is set up properly, it will convert into code that is set up correctly. And in this particular database that I'm giving you, all of the primary and foreign keys are set up correctly. And what we're going to do is you are going to need to run this to actually execute the code and create your database. And I've already done this, so I'm not sure if I'll get an error or not, but you guys definitely need to because you don't have the Sugar Baker database yet. Okay, so it's assuming I made some kind of a change and it didn't update. And once you've done that, if you go into the SQL Server Object Explorer and you look the second local DB where you've got projects V for 13, that is where you will see the database. And then if you take a look at it, you'll see all of your tables. You're going to see all the columns and the keys as they are specified in here. And it is important to take note of the name of the server, which is the basically all of the text before SQL Server and the name of your database. And I've kind of highlighted them over here for you. Now, what we're going to do is create a new ASP.NET Core MVC project. And we are going to pull in the database and create code. And so we are going to call this Sugar Bakers. This is my fictional bakery. And I do need to change the location for this. And we do want the model view controller. And let's go right into our Solution Explorer, and we're going to go ahead and install Entity Framework right off the bat. So we're going to do Entity Framework Core SQL Server. And then we'll do the tools. All right, so it looks like that's all installed. Let me close out of that. What we're going to do next is enter a one kind of long command, and it is going to connect to that database. It is going to create our context file and all of our models. And we do this in the Package Manager console. So the command is scaffold-db context, and then in double quotes, we tell it the name of the server equals, and this is the name that we saw over in the Object Explorer, SQL Server Object Explorer. We enter the name of the database. We say that it is a trusted connection, which means that we're using Windows authentication. We tell it the database provider is Entity Framework Core SQL Server, and we give it a parameter to tell it to put our entity classes into the models folder. So I am going to highlight all of this. I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it right in here. And then I'm going to press enter. So first thing you should notice in our models folder is we have a separate entity class for each table in the database. And you'll also notice that we don't have any data annotations. So where is all of the annotation? Well, you can do configurations as annotations or Fluent API. And with Database First, it's done using Fluent API. So it's in the context file. So if we take a look at the context file, okay, we've got all of the DB set statements, which are specifying the class and the table. And if we kind of go down into the on model creating method, this is where you are going to see all of the table information. So this is our customer table, and it's specifying the key, and then it gets into all of the properties. And, whether they're required or not, what the max lengths are, whether there is a constraint. So you can see here it added a constraint as a foreign key, and it does that for each one. So this is how it is specifying the properties and any kind of constraints or business logic for them. So our next step here, because we have now all of our classes, entity classes, we have our context file. Our next step is to add a connection string to app settings. So this is pretty much the same as how we did it in code first. The difference here is that the server is going to be the server that we used in our scaffold DB context command. In fact, you could pretty much copy that. And the only thing I added was multiple active result sets equal true. And that's the only thing that I added, but the rest is directly copied from the scaffold DB context command. So I'm going to go ahead and add this. And we also need to modify startup, and we need to add the dependency injection. And again, this is just like we've done it all along, okay, even though this is database first. And you can see it is flagging this because we need a couple using statements. Now, what I normally do if I get this is I actually go into show potential fixes. And this is mainly because I'm a lazy typist. And then I see what using statement I need. And, I double click and it adds it. Okay, but you do need to add sugar baker models. And we should need to also add Microsoft Entity Framework Core. So I can see that that's right here. I'm just going to double click. It should add it for me. And it did. And so now those errors have gone away. And I'm going to go ahead and run a build. The rest is identical to what we've been doing in Code First. We need to add the controllers, and we're going to use scaffolding for the controllers and views. And then we need to modify our layout. So there really is nothing different from this point on as far as generating those controllers and views and modifying the layouts. So I'm going to pause while I add the controllers and views for all of my classes, and I will come back when I'm going to modify the layout. All right, so at this point, I have all the controllers, I have all the views, and I'm going to modify the layout view. And again, I'm just going to add some navigation to the index in my various controllers and views. So I think I'll start with customer. And then I might do orders. And then I'm going to do items on orders. Now, in the real world, I would probably do a view model and combine these because it would look a lot better. And then let's see, we'll do payments. Products. And we'll throw zip code in here. Oops, I think there's an S on that, or zips. Make sure you use the correct controller names. So I got zips, products, payments, orders, items on orders. All right, that all looks right. And so I'm going to go ahead and run it. There is no seed data with this. So to test this, we do need to add some data, and we're going to have to add a zip code first before we can add a customer. And likewise, we'll have to add some products before we can add an order. Okay, so I've already added some things because it's using my database that I had before. But you guys are going to have to add, let's see, I think this was Prudentville. You guys will have to add at least one zip code. And then you're going to want to go over and add some customers, which I did. I'll add another one. Whoops, negative customer number. We'll do Scooby. And let's see, let's do some products. And then we can do, let's see, do some orders here. Sure, we'll do today. Like I said, you would probably combine orders and items on order because it's kind of impossible to do this separately. And we'll do items. And there is the calculation kind of behind the scenes that is taking the quantity and multiplying it by the unit price. So if we were really going to use this, we would combine items on order and orders, put them into a view model, and then we would be able to update total due by doing a little calculation, pulling in our line item totals, adding in the freight, and calculating that. But this